The Behemoth is one of the most dangerous and fierce beasts a Final Fantasy player can face. With a combination of physical power and strong magic, they are a force to be reckoned with whenever the party encounters them. The Behemoth originates from the Book of Job in the Bible, and is mentioned in other stories in the Abrahamic religions. The Hebrew word behemoth is a derivative of the word behema, meaning beast. Behemoth in turn means great beast. The behemoth is spoken of as an incredibly large and powerful animal that prowls the lands around the Garden of Eden, and is so strong that none but God have the means to kill it. The behemoth has a counterpart in Leviathan, the great beast of the sea, and in some stories there is also Ziz, the great beast of the sky. Over time, much as the word Leviathan, behemoth has passed into colloquial usage for any object of great size and strength. There is some speculation that the behemoth may have inspired a similarly named creature, Bahamut. Aside from the similar names, Bahamut is said to be a fish with the bull Kujata standing on its back. This mirrors the relationship between the behemoth and the Leviathan, and the flip in which of the two is of the land and of the sea could be attributed to confusion and distortion over time and retellings of the stories. In Final Fantasy, the behemoth is a large, muscular creature with two long horns. It does not specifically resemble any one animal, but takes aspects from members of the Bovidae family, such as bulls, oxen, and bison. They have purple skin, sometimes dark blue, with large claws, a row of spikes or fins down their back, and a long tail which may have spikes on it. Behemoths have large manes that are usually red or yellow, and may have other hair on their back, chest, or tail. Their exact color tone varies in different games, ranging from vibrant to muted. They are universally larger than humans, but their exact size differs depending not only on the game, but also on the species of behemoth. Behemoths have several variants. The primary one is the Behemoth King, or King Behemoth, which as its name implies is a stronger behemoth. The Behemoth King appearance varies, but most often it is a palette swap of the behemoth with yellow skin and a purple or green mane. There is also the Dark Behemoth, which is dark gray or black. Many games expand on the behemoth into an entire genus of enemies, under which creatures such as the Reaver, Katabalpass, and Humbaba are grouped. Other behemoth-type enemies are given prefixes or suffixes, such as the Great Behemoth, Feral Behemoth, Kaiser Behemoth, and more. Different games depict behemoths as either quadrupeds or bipeds. In earlier games they were purely quadrupedal, and Final Fantasy VI was the first time they were shown on two legs. It is sometimes shown that behemoths are naturally quadrupedal and can rear up on their hind legs when fighting. There are also occasions where different types of behemoth in the same game may be quadrupedal or bipedal. Despite their great size, behemoths are deceptively fast and agile, able to dash fast enough to keep up with fleeing players, leap great distances, and spin in place as an attack. Behemoths are terrifically powerful, with high HP, strong defenses, and devastating attacks, and they are most well known for countering attacks with an attack of their own. Their spell list includes high-tier magics such as Meteor, Comet, Flare, and Maelstrom, and they often cast these spells in response to magic being used on them, or as a final attack when they are defeated. They can also often use Mighty Guard to bolster their defenses further. The behemoth's signature physical attack is Heave, but they also use various other attacks with their horns, claws, and tails. They sometimes have an affinity for lightning or ice attacks, but this is not consistent. Behemoths typically don't have a story role besides being powerful beasts the party must defeat, and sometimes not even that. Behemoth variants are often optional bosses that can be hunted for side quests, and the behemoth is sometimes given a connection to Bahamut due to the speculation over their biblical namesakes also sharing a connection. Behemoth horns and hides often appear as items with varying uses, and are valued for their practical applications, and also as a symbol of strength and bravery for felling such a beast. Behemoth meat is highly prized and considered a delicacy, though it is unclear if this is due to its taste, or the idea that someone was able to acquire the meat in the first place. Because of their imposing design and great power, behemoths are one of the most iconic monsters in Final Fantasy. Though they are not as marketable as cactuars or tonberries, behemoths are instantly recognizable to veteran players, and the sight of one is enough to warn that a tough battle is imminent. They also appear prominently in spin-offs and crossovers. The behemoth made its debut in dramatic fashion in Final Fantasy II. It is a boss fought in the Colosseum when the party travels there to rescue Princess Hilda from the Emperor of Palamecia. It has no special attacks, just high stats and powerful physical attacks. Later, it appears as a normal enemy around Mysidia. Near the end of the game in the Jade Passage on the way to Pandemonium, the King Behemoth is an optional boss that attacks from a treasure chest. It too relies solely on physical attacks, and drops the Rune Axe when defeated. It also appears as a rare random encounter on the highest floors of Pandemonium. Versions of the game with the Soul of Rebirth side quest featured the Dark Behemoth as a random encounter in the Unknown Palace, which is a mirror image of Pandemonium. Soul of Rebirth also features the optional boss Ultima Weapon, which is a behemoth recolored to resemble the recurring boss Ultima Weapon. In Final Fantasy III, the behemoth is a powerful enemy encountered in the Temple of Time. They have the Meteor spell, the first time it was included in a Final Fantasy title. Meteor does random damage to each party member, but behemoths rarely use it. In the Ancient's Maze, one of the final areas of the game, King Behemoths appear as normal enemies, and also use Meteor. Final Fantasy IV establishes behemoths as they are usually depicted in terms of appearance and behavior. They are faced as mini-bosses in the Lair of the Father, and as monster-in-a-box encounters in the Lunar Subterrane. Behemoths counter all physical attacks with an attack of their own, and are highly resistant to magic and counter magic with Maelstrom, reducing the party's HP to single digits. In the deepest depths of the Subterrane, behemoths are normal on counters and can even attack in pairs, or alongside a red dragon. In versions of the game with the Lunar Ruins, King Behemoths appear as random encounters in the ruins, and fight identically to regular behemoths. In the game's sequel, The After Years, behemoths are encountered in the Eblon Cave in Edge's Tale, and in the final tale appear in the subterrane of the True Moon. Their behavior is identical to the original game, though the addition of bands to the battle system makes them comparatively easier to defeat. The behemoth drops the Purple Tail, one of several tail-type items dropped by specific enemies that can be traded for rare equipment. In the depths, the player faces numerous quartets of enemies from other Final Fantasy titles, and the King Behemoth of Final Fantasy II is one of them. It uses powerful physical attacks and counters all damage with an attack, and casts Meteor when defeated. Final Fantasy V is unusual in that the original release of the game featured King Behemoths, but not normal behemoths. Behemoths appear in the Sealed Temple, a new bonus dungeon exclusive to the Game Boy Advance and defunct mobile versions, and King Behemoths appear in the final areas of the Interdimensional Rift. King Behemoths counter all form of magic damage with Meteor, and Behemoths have a chance to use Meteor when low on HP. The player must catch a Behemoth using the Beastmaster's ability to progress in the Sealed Temple. There is also the Kuza Beast, a palette swap of the two that appears around the Sealed Castle, the first instance of a non-Behemoth using the Behemoth sprite. Final Fantasy VI has encounters with Behemoths on the Floating Continent, the final dungeon of the World of Balance. They counter most attacks with their special attack Beatdown, and counter summon attacks with Meteor. Great Behemoths appear at the end of the game in Kefka's Tower, where they counter attacks with Haymaker and can use Meteor as a normal attack. There is also the Intangir, an unusual enemy found in the World of Balance on Triangle Island. It is invisible until attacked, when it suddenly appears and will attack with Meteor before vanishing again. It will not act until it is attacked and appears, and its attack to cast Vanish on itself is named Sleep, giving the impression that when it is invisible, it is asleep and inactive, and attacking it wakes it up. The Behemoth King is a boss fought in the Cave on the Veldt, and must be faced twice. After it is killed the first time, it revives and attacks again as an undead enemy. It uses a combination of physical attacks and powerful magic, and has a unique special attack used on party members with Reflect, which damages them and removes Reflect. As an undead enemy, the Behemoth King can put party members to sleep, and then bombards them with several attacks. The Behemoth King is one of the few bosses that can appear on the Veldt and be acquired as a rage for Gau, and uses Firaga. Versions of the game with Dragon's Den add the Dark Behemoth as one of several mini-bosses in a gauntlet of enemies. The Dark Behemoth will begin by buffing itself with Mighty Guard, and then uses normal attacks and its special attack Heave, and when killed will use either Meteor or Ultima as a final attack. In Final Fantasy VII, Behemoths appear at the end of Disc 2 during the party's return to Midgar. They use physical attacks, counter magic with Flare, and can use the enemy's skill Unknown, which deals damage based on their lost HP. King behemoths appear in the northern cave and can use Comet too. Red 13 has a weapon called the Behemoth Horn, which resembles the typical curved, yellow horns. In Crisis Core, a behemoth is fought as the boss of the game's introductory level, which is a VR simulation of Sector 8. Being the first boss of the game, its only attacks are various physical strikes. The Behemoth King is a boss that appears in the Gomorrah Underground, the final dungeon, and has various physical attacks as well as Quake and Comet. More behemoth variants appear in missions, the Sea Hulk, the Jabberwock, and the Humbaba, as well as Experiment number 88 and Experiment number 110. All of them fight similarly to each other with physical attacks and high-ranking magic like Comet and Ultima. The Type 0 behemoth appears in Final Fantasy VII Remake in Chapter 14, contained in an underground Shinra lab. It has numerous physical attacks and can cause boulders to rain from the ceiling, and when it uses Rampage it becomes resistant to damage and its attacks are powered up. Its lower body and upper body are its weak points. The behemoth can be damaged by attacking either one, and when one of the two is defeated it is crippled and the behemoth's movement becomes greatly limited. Once the other part of its body is defeated, the behemoth is staggered, and both parts regenerate when its stagger ends. It counters all magical damage with Flare, but when staggered its horns become vulnerable to damage, and if KO'd its ability to use Flare is removed. The Type 0 behemoth can be fought again in Shinra's Combat Simulator later in the game, and in Yuffie's DLC episode through the same method. In Final Fantasy VIII, behemoths appear in the light areas of the game, such as the Deep Sea Research Center, Lunatic Pandora, and Ultimicia's Castle. They can use Mighty Guard, Tornado, and Meteor, and at higher levels can use these spells as counterattacks and final attacks. The item Barrier can be mugged or dropped by behemoths, or modified from their Triple Triad cards, and teaches Quistis Mighty Guard as blue magic. A palette swap named Catawba Pass appears in Ultimicia's Castle as one of the bosses sealing the party's abilities. Catawba Pass can use Thundaga, and after using it 3 times can use Thunder Summon to deal lightning damage to the party. When KO'd, it casts Meteor. Final Fantasy IX only features the regular behemoth, and it appears in the final dungeon Memoria, and one can be fought as an optional challenge in Treno. They counter almost all forms of damage with Meteor, which in this game deals random damage and may even miss, but is still very dangerous. Aside from Meteor counters, behemoths attack with physical blows and their special attack Heave. Final Fantasy X has behemoths appear on Mount Gagazet and in the ruins of Zanarkand. They attack with Thundara and Heave, but lack their signature counterattacks. Behemoth Kings appear within Sin and fight similarly, but also have Thundaga, Flare, and Mighty Guard, and cast Meteor when they die, a spell exclusive to them. Kamari can learn the Mighty Guard Ronso Rage by using Lancet on a Behemoth or Behemoth King. In the Monster Arena, capturing all the fiends on Mount Gagazet lets players fight the Catawba Pass, which looks like the original Behemoth and attacks with Flare and a physical named Pop Fly, and when KO'd it casts Ultima. In 10-2, behemoths appear in Zanarkand and use similar attacks to the original game. In place of the Behemoth King is the Humbaba, which is fought as a boss at the Thunder Plains, and once again mirrors the tactics of the original game's Behemoth Kings. In Vana DL, behemoths make up an entire genus of monster, which includes the lofty behemoth, Elasmos, Kolomodumo, and Gudana. Behemoths are a rare sight, but are known to prowl in a cavern, appropriately named Behemoth's Dominion. The species is indicated to be cannibalistic. Behemoths can be forced to spawn in Behemoth's Dominion by luring them with meat dropped by the behemoth variant Schlevnik, and the meat dropped by regular behemoths can be used the same way to force a Behemoth King to spawn. In both cases, the item description comments that it is a favorite food of the monster it attracts. All types of behemoth can use armor attacks that cause players to take damage or suffer debuffs for attacking them, and can use attacks such as Shockwave, Thunderbolt, Howl, and Wild Horn. Many variants of behemoth can cast Meteor or Ecliptic Meteor, either as a normal attack or a final attack when defeated. As part of a quest chain to obtain the Black Belt, monks must track down a Behemoth King and kill it to obtain the Behemoth Tongue. Other behemoth variants can drop hides and horns used for trade and in the crafting of equipment. Final Fantasy XII also treats behemoths as a class of monsters, a subgroup of the giant genus. Variants include the Reaver, Humbaba, and Werewolf, the latter of which is notable for appearing on the Giza Plains and providing an early opportunity for level grinding. The behemoth itself appears in the Feywood and Geruvagan near the end of the game. This game marks the first time behemoths wield weapons, a massive sword, and they also wear clothing consisting of a loincloth and crude armor on their arms and legs. Behemoth-type enemies prefer physical blows and mid-tier magic like Blazara and Thundara. The variant Fenrir is a boss fought in the Pharos near the end of the game, and the Humbaba Mistant is an optional boss in the Necro Hall of Nabudis. The player can also hunt the Altessi and Katabal Pass as marks. Finally, there is the Behemoth King. It more greatly resembles the behemoths as they appeared in past titles. It is much larger, moves on all fours, and has more pronounced horns, making it overall look more like a dragon-type enemy. Behemoth-type enemies drop items including the Beast Lord Hide, Beast Lord Horn, and the Behemoth Stake, high-tier loot items that fetch high prices and unlock valuable goods in the bazaar. Final Fantasy XIII has two types of behemoths: wild behemoths that look as they did in past games, and behemoths that have undergone cybernetic augmentation to be used by Cocoon's military. Behemoth types include the Alpha Behemoth, Lodestar Behemoth, Kaiser Behemoth, and Greater Behemoth. The monster known as Feral Behemoth was originally simply Behemoth in the Japanese game, but given a prefix in the localization, thus causing the oddity of no monster simply named Behemoth appearing in the trilogy. Behemoths normally fight on all fours, but stronger variants will undergo a transformation at low HP. They stand on their hind legs and draw a weapon from their body using their horn as a handle, and continue the battle with different attack patterns. Behemoths use physical blows such as Heave and Sunder, and a few can use magic attacks like Aurora and Thundara. In 13.2, several types of behemoth can be recruited into the Paradigm Pack as either commandos or ravagers. As would be expected, they generally excel at strength and have powerful physical attacks, but move and attack slowly. Most behemoths in this game are of the wild variety, with the sole exception of the Proto-Behemoth. In Lightning Returns, the Reaver is the only behemoth-type enemy in the game. One named the Reaver Rampager is fought in the Slaughterhouse, and they also appear in the Wildlands. They can drop the Shard Blade, letting Lightning wield one of their massive swords herself. In Final Fantasy XIV, the behemoth did not appear in the original launch of the game, but was added in A Realm Reborn. The behemoth is a fate boss that appears in the Coerthas Central Highlands, in a region called Behemoth's Dominion. It fights similarly to the behemoths of 11, with attacks like Trounce and Thunderbolt, and it casts Meteor when it dies. It drops the behemoth horn for use in crafting, including behemoth-themed equipment. The King Behemoth is a boss fought in the Labyrinth of the Ancients raid, which is based on the Ancients maze from Final Fantasy III, and the Kaiser Behemoth is a Rank S elite mark fought in Coerthas Western Highlands. Other behemoth types include the Bajan Alasmouth, Kronprin's Behemoth, and Living Rock. In the quest chain Lightning Strikes, a crossover with the 13 trilogy, players fight the Armored Beast, based on the behemoths from the 13 trilogy. The Baby Behemoth and Behemoth Heir are minions, and the behemoth can be acquired as a mount. It is explained that an adventurer found a den of baby behemoths shortly after the Calamity, and since their mother had perished in the Calamity, she kept them and trained them to be used as mounts. Final Fantasy XV features the behemoth as the target of the hunt, the Pride of the King, and is fought in the Kikatrich ruins. According to creation materials, the behemoth was the first monster designed for Final Fantasy XV. It had a physical sculpture of it created that was 3D scanned to create the model, and the developers spent time thinking how a real behemoth would be depicted, including coming up with ways to explain its physical traits and behaviors. Behemoths in this game fight with powerful physical blows from their claws and tails, and with one exception have no magical aptitude. A variant of Behemoth called Deadeye must be hunted as part of the main storyline to unlock Chocobo rentals, as the Deadeye is preying on the lands near the ranch. Deadeye also appeared in the Episode to Sky demo, where hunting the Deadeye awards the Behemoth Horn that can be sold for a large amount of money. Later in the game, a new Behemoth variant, the Behemoth Tyrant, takes up residence in Deadeye's former lair as a new hunt target. The Rogue Behemoth can be fought in the infamous side quest, The Perfect Cup, where the party tracks down a behemoth to add its meat to their cup noodles. Finally, there is the Behemoth King, also called the Dread Behemoth. It appears in Insomnia at the end of the game and can be fought in timed quests. Its roar covers the battlefield in ice and can freeze the party in place, and it can also fire ice from its mouth. The Behemoth King is notable for taking inspiration from Yoshitaka Amano's concept art for the original Final Fantasy. A piece of art done for that game depicts the Warriors of Light facing a large, behemoth-like monster with wings, but behemoths did not appear in the game, and no game prior to 15 depicted behemoths with wings. Thus, the winged Behemoth King of 15 is the realization of Amano's concept after almost 25 years. A palette swap called the Kaiser Behemoth can be fought in Episode Prompto as an optional boss. Behemoth horns can be used in magic crafting to add the Quintcast effect, and Behemoth tenderloins are used to make smoked behemoth and king stew, two high-grade recipes that provide strong boosts to physical stats. The distinct Behemoth round ingredient is used in the Cup Noodles side quest. Because of their ubiquity in Final Fantasy, behemoths have appeared in countless spin-offs. These include Tactics, Tactics A2, Crystal Chronicles, Dimensions, Dissidia Opera Omnia, Mystic Quest, Brave Exvius, and the Chocobo series. Many of these spin-offs, as are wont to do, base the behemoth's design on a particular specific game, or may reuse assets from that game. Their exact tactics vary, but they broadly keep to the behemoth standard of powerful physical attacks, using Meteor or Comet, and countering attacks. Final Fantasy Type 0 differentiates between behemoths in the wild and those used as weapons by military forces by referring to the latter as Behemash, though they look identical. They are fought in the Bethanel Caverns and Mission 4-1, and Behemashers are fought in Mission 5-2 and Mission 5 Crimson. The Behemoth King appears in the Vale Desolens and Bethanel Caverns, and is simply a stronger version of the regular behemoth, and all three versions use physical attacks. In the PSP version of the game, behemoths used a modified model from Crisis Core, but the HD remaster uses the 15 model instead. Concept art for a mechanical behemoth exists, but no such enemy appears in the game. World of Final Fantasy introduces behemoths to the player in an unwelcome manner. During the game's tutorial, Lon unwittingly enters a Murkrift, which contain exceptionally powerful mirages, and provokes the behemoth within, giving the player their first game over. Behemoths and the younger baby-hemoths can be found and imprisoned during the game, and a cousin family of mirages consists of the Kuza Beast and the younger Kuza Kit. Behemoths focus on counterattacks and heavy physical attacks, while the Kuza Beast uses lightning attacks. The behemoth can further grow into a Behemonster, which stands on its hind legs and can use Meteor counterstance. The Dark Behemoth is a standalone mirage originally released as DLC, and has some magical aptitude, including Banisher. Stranger of Paradise features the behemoth as the boss of Vigilia Court, an area based on Insomnia from Final Fantasy XV. As an homage to both that game and the original Final Fantasy, it is also based on the winged behemoth drawn by Yoshitaka Amano. It attacks with Heave, Meteor, Comet, and Lightning. When Jack attempts to Soul Burst it at half HP, it transforms into the Dragon King, a reference to Bahamut. Along with other new attacks, the Dragon King can use Bahamut's signature attack, Mega Flare. In Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, a particular behemoth has an important role in the story. The 8 Sages of Hess were sealed in elemental crystals, and several are released during the events of the game. The sage sealed in the Dark Crystal is Behemoth, also known as Behemoth K. The game is ambiguous if the letter stands for King, Kaiser, or something else. Behemoth K was notable among its species for its unusual high intelligence, which is why it was made a sage, but its imprisonment has driven it feral and mad. During the main story, it accompanies Sol and aids him in his plans, and is fought near the end of the first season. When defeated, it regains its sapience and encourages the party to stop Sol, making this one of the few instances in the franchise where a behemoth speaks. Behemoth K can use a combination of physical and magical attacks, such as Heave, Rampage, Flare, and Meteor. Behemoths have also appeared in non-Final Fantasy titles. Kingdom Hearts features the behemoth as an exceptionally powerful Heartless, fought as a boss twice late in the original game. It is only vulnerable by striking a small horn on top of its head, requiring Sora to jump up onto its back to reach it. It can call down lightning and its footsteps create shockwaves, and it can also fire a large orb of orange energy, similar to Meteor. Behemoths appear in Monster Hunter World as part of a collaboration with Final Fantasy XIV. They can use Comet and Meteor, and cast Ecliptic Meteor when they die, which is guaranteed to kill players if not evaded. The Behemoth is the final boss of Mario Sports Mix, which was developed by Square Enix. It can summon lightning, fireballs, and meteors. Defeating the Behemoth unlocks Star Cup mode, at the end of which players face the Behemoth King. Thank you to everyone for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more lore Final Fantasy in the future, and stop by the community tab on my channel to vote on the next subject.